So, whether, you're early in your career or, towards the latter end of the late end of your career, we want to make sure that people are continuously learning and developing, so the development drive and the development focus is always there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Rahul Abhishek, the founder of HireWithEve.ai, an AI agent for applicant screening that helps reduce hiring time by 90%. The guest for today is Cromwell Ellie. To introduce Cromwell, he's the Vice President of Talent, DEI and Employer Branding at Yara International and is based out of Oslo. Yara International is a Norwegian chemical company that was established in 1905, and it specializes in the production and distribution of fertilizers and related industrial products. As of 2023, the company reported an annual revenue of approximately $15.5 billion. Cromwell has previously also worked in reputed organizations such as Telenor, GE Oil and Gas. So welcome, Cromwell, to the podcast.
Thanks, Raul. Happy to be here.
Great. Would be great to kickstart the conversation by first just learning about your own journey and how did you reach where you are today? What were some of the decisions you made in order to be in the domain that you are in? Would be great to get started with that.
It's been a while since I actually thought about that one.
Yes.
I was born and raised in India, Raul, and I did my undergrad in India. I started working in India as well. I had an attempt at a couple of sales jobs where I was very unsuccessful. So then I had to do something different, and I accidentally got into recruiting for a recruitment agency,
Okay.
and that's where I got the flavor of HR. So starting to work with people, recruiting, in the pure talent acquisition role. Then I moved to Australia about 22 years ago. I did, further studies. I did a master's in HR, and then I started working in HR for the private and public sector there. So that's really when I got into the real, HR domain, doing generalist HR roles from talent acquisition to HR generalists, writing policies and then I got an opportunity to work with the university. I think, for me, I think that was, one of the main sort of a career, steps of career advancement where I got to learn a lot, got to work with some great HR people and academics, got to do lecturing. So that really boosted my confidence and competence within the HR domain. Spent a few years with them, and then I moved to GE Oil and Gas. And that we all know what GE does for people's experience and competence. Got an opportunity to have a couple of expat assignments in China and in Italy. And GE, they throw you in all different functions within the HR domain. So I was doing comp and ban, did union negotiations for plants, and then a couple of stints in China and Italy, and then I asked to get a transfer to Norway because I'm married to a Norwegian. We decided to move to Norway, and then I've been in Norway for 12 years. And then I had a very short stint with Aker Solutions, oil and gas company. But then I moved to telco, spent a little under 6 years, 5.5 years with them, and now I've been with Yara for a little over 3 years.
All right.
So I've been doing a lot of different things, as an HR business partner, leading the HR function in Australia within GE Oil and Gas. And I think the last 8 years has been a lot of focus on talent and, learning in the talent area, leadership development.
All right.
So
Great.
that's something that, that's like a, 22-second kind of summary of what I've done in 22 years.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot for sharing that. And of course, but talking about now the current job that you have at Yara, and I understand you're looking at talent, DEI, and employer branding. So just for let's say younger audience, right, who do not know about what these entail, what would be your, in a way, simplified explanation of what is talent management, what is DEI, what is employer branding, and why they are important for a company?
Well, there's a lot of things that come under, sort of the scope of talent management. If we look at the employee life cycle, it is like right from talent acquisition. So the attraction, the development of our, the people that join the company, how do we sort of mobilize them as well in terms of, the management of that and the development, succession planning, etc. So we do, within the talent area, we do performance management as well. So your day-to-day conversations with your leader, the focus on your development, short term, long term, how you get feedback from your colleagues to help you learn and grow. So that's another performance management part. Succession planning, another big piece within the talent management area. How are we building the pipeline, for the future, developing the current employees
Yeah.
to take on more complex and senior roles in the near and long term as well. Then, of course, DEI is about, for organizations to be very diverse and inclusive in everything we do. So I think one of the things that we're trying to do in Yara is to become stronger at that. We do have, a lot of things that we do within DEI, but it's really what we're trying to do is to embed DEI into our talent processes. This takes longer than, people would like. Personally, I would like as well, but that's something that we're aiming for. So no matter who you are in terms of your personal background or your interests or your needs, or whatever your personal situation is or personality is, we want to make Yara a home for you. And once you find a home in Yara, we want you to be able to stay for who you are. And then, of course, employer branding. It's about how do we become an employer of choice. Why do people join Yara, but also why do people want to stay in Yara? So, of course, I can go into a little bit more detail later if there's a question on that, Rahul. But it's we've done a year and a half study on what we could do better in Yara and what we do well. So, in terms of employer branding.
Okay, that's great. That's great, and definitely we can go into that deeper as well in shortly. So sounds good. Sounds good. Cromwell, one of our thinking about the domain of HR is that we do believe that they are one of the superheroes of the organizations. Primarily being the reason being that, of course, they bring the people together who work on the mission of the company and make the vision a reality, right? Just wanted you to shed some light on that thinking. Do you think that is the case? And if yes, then how? And then pose that what are some of the inherent weaknesses also the domain has that younger professionals and overall even leaders should be aware of and perhaps address it?
I would love to say, Rahul, we are superheroes, and many people in the HR fraternity would say we are superheroes. Yes, we are. I think people outside the HR sort of world would also say, we are, because I think they recognize and value the work that we do. It doesn't always feel like that. Sometimes it does feel like a thankless job at the end of the week, thinking, really, is this what happened, during the last 5 days? But yeah, I would love to believe that we are superheroes. I mean, some of the things that we push for, in companies is, we are development champions, right? So, whether, you're early in your career or, towards the latter end of the late end of your career, we want to make sure that people are continuously learning and developing, so the development drive and the development focus is always there. I think what we also, one of our superpowers maybe is, or I think is, employee advocacy. We are there for the employees. Employees may not always feel it is like that, but it's a lot. Working with people is very complex. But I would really like to think that we are employee advocates. We have really good, listening skills, and we need to develop further listening skills and the communication skills as well. So I think these are the things that we work on. We are there to build and shape the culture of the organization. And again, culture is also a very big term, but the way things get done in an organization, the way the organization is set up, I think HR plays quite a solid role when it comes to this. Or at least many organizations play. There are some companies where HR is still evolving as a function. So but in general, HR plays a very important role in developing and shaping the culture of the organization, developing leaders as well. I mean, and that's needless to say. So these are the few things that come to mind, Raul, that we are we work towards, and we are superheroes, like you said. I think some of the challenges that we face, I wouldn't call them weaknesses, but I think the challenges the several priorities that we have. It's like juggling, from one project or one requirement to another. Today it could be a massive reorganization that's happening in your company, but at the same time you need to launch a performance management process. Or you see that your DEI targets that you're working towards, it's not meeting its expectation, then you got to work towards that as well. So what's great is there are multiple things that you can work on the same time. What's challenging is there are multiple things that you can work on at the same time. So sometimes we may not be able to give each of the areas enough attention. Uh, Maybe change management is something that is always going to be a challenge because people we all know people don't like change, or they like change when it's not impacting them, but when it's impacting themselves, working through the change management is something that I think we should all become better. Communication is something that we need to become a lot better. And I'm not pointing fingers at any organization, but I'm just talking in general terms.
Of
So
course.
I think these are the few things that come to mind that we need to continue to work towards.
Of course, of course. Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, and they're definitely both in terms of strengths or the area that the domain handles, developing leaders, employer advocacy, in charge of the culture, and they are very, very large topics and very essential for the organization as a whole. Perhaps if you just would be great to hear some. Of course, without revealing any specific kind of companies, but situations, stories. For example, on the topic of culture and change management, where there is a certain situation that was handled, and that in a way brings insight into how challenging it potentially can be, and perhaps also exciting for going forward for the younger generation as well.
Well, I can give you, I mean, three of my employers. You mentioned in the introduction, I worked for, GE Oil and Gas. I did work for Telenor as well, and now even with my current organization. One of the things that, I've been exposed to and directly involved in is, the performance management and succession planning processes. So when you introduce something like, new way of doing performance management, where, say, for example, you're taking away performance ratings, or you're introducing some tools or systems, to, provide you, feedback or get employee feedback or peer feedback. I think this is challenging because, Yara, GE, Telenor, all these companies, spread across, several different countries. So the cultural aspect comes in, giving feedback or taking away the ratings. Sometimes people don't, or people stick to some of the traditional ways of doing things. So what may work in Norway may not work in Singapore, may not work in India or, in
Yeah.
Colombia, for example. So how do you, try to make sure that you are using a process or introducing a process that will, be applied to all? So, the tricky part is to get everyone on board or to introduce something that's applied globally. So, where we found the balance is, have some common principles that you can work on globally with some local adjustments, for those particular countries. When it comes to DEI as well, that's a massive, it's a huge complex sort of topic because, what we sort of take for granted in some parts of the world when it comes to, say Pride, for example. Pride is celebrated and recognized very, openly in many parts of the world. But if
Yeah.
you go to some parts of the world, even to talk about it or to even have the rainbow flag, in your logo or banners on on your teams, it could get you into a lot of trouble, for an employee. So
Right.
these are the cultural things that we really have to be we really have to take care of, and then we have to find a way on how we can, I don't know, call it compromise for lack of better words, or find a way we can adjust for local requirements. Just a couple of examples on performance management and DEI, Rahul. So where it is quite complex to work on these topics, especially when your organization is spread across 50, 60 countries.
Right, right, right. Definitely. And then thanks for sharing that. Now, if we take that further, what is your vision for the particular for the HR domain when it comes to business growth and success? How does HR drive business growth and success for the company?
I'll stick to say the talent and the DI area because that's very close to home, right? And I've been working with this now for several years. So I think a vision would be for companies, especially Yara, to continue to be very inclusive. Yes, we have a lot of work to do, so I fully agree on the DI part and the talent management area. But continue to focus on being inclusive in our talent processes, right from talent acquisition to when people actually enter the doors of the company, to how we focus on succession planning, making equitable and fair opportunities for everyone, development opportunities, mobility. So being inclusive, for me that is a big piece. That would be one of the things that I would really like to strengthen and continue to work on this. We do some work on this, but we also have some work ahead of us as well.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that that I would like to see. The other thing I would like to see within the HR function is us using and adopting technology a lot more. Because for me the future is about technology and psychology
Right.
within the HR function. So how do we leverage the tools and the systems that we have, or we can buy or use in the future? So that's on the tech part, and then on the psychology part is like the well-being and the psychological safety, of our employees. So when you come to work, you think it's a good place to work. No workplace will ever be like challenge free. So there will be challenges, but we treat people respectfully and they feel psychologically safe at work. So the employee well-being, psychological safety is the other side of the coin.
Right. Right.
So and then of course using data as well. Rahul, I think the HR function has a lot more credibility. Especially working with the business in the business. When we come with facts, when we come with data, when we come with good reasoning and rationale behind why we want to do things, and it's not just because it's a nice thing or a fun thing to do. It's really because it's shaping the business, or it's predicting what's coming in the future. So focusing a lot more on data and analytics.
Right. Right. So data analytics, technology, psychology, employee well-being. These would be some of the things that we need to, in a way, organizationally take forward and be part, and which will, I think, support then the growth and overall enterprise success.
I
Uh,
think so. I think this is the way forward, and continue to work on the processes, strengthening the processes. But for me, it's embracing tech, a stronger focus on the psychology part of it as well, and making data-driven, decisions. So maybe I don't know, summarize it in 3 points or three headings.
yeah, 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 yeah. That makes sense. Let's dig deeper into the technology aspect of it. Um, what kind of shifts have you observed within the function of HR when it comes to tech adoption, and also innovation that you've really come to appreciate, how it was done before versus now?
Well, I think it will always be committing a sin, Rahul, if I don't use AI. So let me just use the word AI and get it over and done with. But adopting AI, and the thing is, AI is getting a lot of recognition and appreciation now, but it doesn't mean that companies have not been using AI, in the last several years. But we've seen companies use AI in terms of the recruitment process. How you do, and of course, you're a bigger expert in this area than I am. But candidate screening and going through the first few rounds, of the screening and the shortlisting. Tech does that for you so much easily. But of course, we still need to rely so far, I believe, on the human touch when it comes to this. So we've seen progress, a lot of progress made on the on the talent acquisition part. What we are also doing now within Yara, what we piloted is with our, I try not to name names, so I'm not promoting the vendors we have, but the learning experience platform that we have allows us to focus on skills and provide short-term development opportunities. So we're using the internal marketplace or opportunity marketplace. We're piloting it now with a couple of units, so that encourages people to get short-term assignments in other teams. And how the matching does is based on skills, and the system or the platform that we have adopted does all the matching for us. So so that's one way. We also have our HRIS, the tool that our performance management process is connected to. So getting feedback and real time check-ins can happen over there. So we're trying to use technology in a few areas. So in the talent acquisition side, we have performance management, and of course a development through opportunity marketplace. We are, yes, we are focusing on skills, but we'll still be humble enough to say, we're still in the earliest, phase, but, ahead of some other companies though, on how we're thinking about skills in the company, right? And we want to use skills as one of the main areas where we look at succession planning and development opportunities. So I have a great, colleague in the learning area. So, we partner together to, really, design and establish, trying to establish things for the future.
Right. I mean, of course, like with the whole AI advent, definitely a lot of these workflows have become much easier. An interest of topic that you mentioned was tech plus psychology. Would be very interesting to understand from you the importance of this, obviously, and then a bit more. Where you feel more innovation should be there because, hey, we're talking about human beings, we're talking about integrating them part of a system and a company with thousands of people. Would be great to have some kind of thoughts there.
So where we integrating psychology and technology, I may have not.
Yeah, let me just reiterate. So, of course, both the embracing technology and psychology is a topic of interest. So,
Hmm.
my question to you is that where do you feel currently we don't have we like the solutions out there are not quite capturing the essence of psychology when they offer all of these, tech and AI, and there should be a bit more deeper thought process and work being put into. It's a tricky one.
That's a tricky one. And let me see. Maybe I can start my own company if I, have a perfect answer for that one. No, I think, I'm just going to try to wing this one. I don't know if I have, because I haven't thought about this one. I'm going to try to wing it here, Rahul. We know like using tech for skills and all that, but I think, when it comes to embracing, psychology, I thought I'd try to wing it, but let me come back to this one, Rahul.
Sure.
Yeah.
Definitely,
Let
definitely.
me, but that's a very interesting question. So at least now you've given, even if I don't have an answer for you, I have something that I can take back to the organization. How are we going to do this?
Yeah. Because yeah, I mean, of course, like psychology has always been a big part of the HR function, and we're talking about so much tech. So that's an open, very interesting question that we can even discuss at a later point. So perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
If I can may just take an attempt here, Rahul, while you were just, summarizing that point, to move, before you move forward. One of the things that we introduced, a year and a half ago was our new leadership behaviors. Right. So we have leadership behaviors in Yara where we talk about building trust and, driving the strategy, learning and growing. So, these are the things, it's more of the psychology, developing our leaders. So, I think it sounded really, good in my head now. I couldn't articulate this. But I think, these are the things. I don't think it's only going to be for leaders, Raul, but I think, all employees need to be embracing, these kind of behaviors, adopt technology, and I'm really winging it. I can see that.
that's fine.
Uh, yeah, but yeah, I think these are the things that we all have to embrace, and not just think that these are fluffy things that only HR works with. I think the leadership behaviors, the values, something that we should embrace. But Rahul, I thought I'll attempt this one. I need to reflect further, but maybe while I'm answering the other questions, I may think of
No,
something here.
for sure. I mean, this is something that we could just have a conversation over coffee and even just brainstorm, like,
Let's
hey,
do that, Rahul.
how
Maybe we solve something together.
yeah, definitely. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about a bit about employee experience as a whole, and how I know you talked about employer branding that you've worked a bit on. So employer branding is primarily to attract talent. So let's start from that, and then we'll move on to employee experience. So what has been some of your true insights out of the research that you conducted that previously you did not let's say come across?
Yeah, for me, I would also look at employer branding, yes, for attraction, but also for retention as well.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
we really want to make sure that we keep people, and keep the right people in the organization. So, we've attracted, really good talents. We're building good talents, trying to, manage not in terms of manage, but manage the, expectations and mobility, etc. So it's really important for us to keep them as well. So, we partnered, we as in, my team and I partnered with the global the brand team, sorry, not the communication, but the brand team, who actually initially did some studies on, what the Yara does well and, in a few markets. So when we partnered, we decided to work on, the employer brand project. So it
Right.
took a year and a half of, this entire project from start to end, which we recently sort of concluded. We went and did studies in 6 or 7 different countries, trying to understand what Yara does well, where we can improve. We even got an external, consultant to help us with this, so that we are not being very, biased or very, subjective in the way we do this. So we wanted an objective lens. So we got an external consultant to help, in the initial phases to capture all the information. We interviewed and had workshops and sessions with leaders, employees. We spoke to different personas, like plant workers, etc. And that really was very refreshing. And of course, we learned quite a bit on what we need to change as well. But a few things that we learned, what we do well is we take, employee well-being was one of the things that came up. We have a really good, vision or ambition, that we focus on in Yara, and DEI, being inclusive. There are 4 things that came out. So the fourth one just escapes my mind at the moment. But in the DEI aspect of it came up as well, that we're an inclusive organization. So this really, sort of helped us, continue to work on, okay, these are the things that we should be focusing on when we are attracting people. These are the things we should be focusing on when we are retaining people. We need to tell stories about these things that we do. So, we're not recruiting that much, these days, but retention is always going to be a challenge. So we know the things that we can, boast about, and we know the things that we can work about. So this was the employer branding exercise, that we did. We've created a lot of content, like branding content, advertising content, that we can use for recruitment opportunities, and for in-house retention events as well. So that was a big project that we just concluded on the employer branding side. From the
Okay.
employee experience and engagement, I think for me, when we do talk about employee engagement, Rahul, I don't see it as a thing. I see it as an outcome of the things that we do. So if you have, really good leadership behaviors, you have good values, if we have good performance management processes, succession planning processes, good relationships with your leaders, all this creates good employee engagement. All this creates psychological safety. So you can't just come to work one day and say, I'm going to do, let's try to have better employee engagement. This takes a lot of time to build. Psychological safety takes a lot of time to build as well.
Yeah.
So I think what we're, focusing and, strengthening your processes will lead to better employee engagement. And then again, your employee experience as well is about right from you enter the Yara to, you're exiting for whatever reasons. Maybe your experience through all the different touch points that you've had, through your HR or employee life cycle has been healthy. So I think that's how you build employee experience.
All right. All right. All right. Makes sense. Makes sense. And obviously, you mentioned that I mean, these days we're not hiring so much, and this has been also a topic that with multiple of our guests we've discussed. Would be great to get a bit of pointers, your observation, thoughts on the market right now. What do you think is going on? Where do you see it heading? A couple of pointers in terms of what should, again, some of the younger generation graduating should keep in mind going forward.
Yeah, I think, we're not having the best year, and again, this is, not any, it's like secret, it's like public information. So, we've had a challenging year. So that's why the recruitment has, slowed down quite a bit, but we still recruit. We recruit for key positions, and we will continue to. Development internally as well will continue. So I just wanted to, share that. But I think for the younger people or people, I would almost want to say, like, embarking on their HR journey now, I think there are a few things that they should definitely be focusing on, and I think that's what we do within the HR function is um, resilience. is one thing that you need to build, build those, that muscle, because it's constant change, within the people function. It's constant change within, when I say change within the people function, I mean, the people function gets engaged in changes in the organization, right? So there's always something happening in the organization. Today you may do something, tomorrow you won't. Today your project looks like, like the hero project. Tomorrow it may not be given the same priority. So you've got to really build in that strength, like that resilience muscle.
Right.
Empathy is something that you definitely need to, think about and work with. And if you think you have, you got to strengthen that. If you don't have empathy, you've got to build that. So empathy is something, emotional intelligence. So, I hate to read when people say these are soft skills, but I think these are the hard skills that people have. Focus on developing all these skills, and I think this will help people succeed in not only in the HR function, but any function, but especially in HR, because these are the things that you work. And then we touched a little bit on the tech part as well, Rahul. I think, gone are the days when, HR shied away from, tech or numbers. I think we
Yeah.
really need to get more savvy with tech and understanding the business a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those are some good guidelines to keep in mind. Also, again, people entering the domain. So, very soon we'll be at the end of the podcast, Cromwell. But before we do so, would be great to know a bit about you're in a leadership position. You've worked across several giants. Would be great to know what are some of the challenges that the leadership role often encounters, and then how have you gone about potentially addressing some of them?
I think all leaders face the same thing. One is a changing organization, managing expectations of their employees. So I think these are the few, the common things that we will face across. I think, as a leader, I think, building trust in your organization or building trust in the teams. I think that's a big piece. I think leaders need to be consistent in their behaviors. Of course, there may be some, fluctuation sometimes, but it can't just spike that often that, people don't find you as a consistent person. So I think, it's a challenge to, be consistent, but, that's what you really need to be, building the trust. I already mentioned that. Developing your people. I think that is something that, it's, people will be like, yeah, but people can drive their own development. But yes, you need to be there, for your people as well. Um, in such an environment that we are in right now, where there are wars going on, and the energy prices are changing. It's like so frequently, it's impacting our business. The organizational changes happening. I think you've got to be there for your people to create the psychological safety as well. We need to make sure that we give people the opportunity to grow and develop as well. So there are quite a few things. So there's not, leaders don't have only their own responsibilities, but the responsibilities of the entire team. So there are several, Rahul. I think we can spend an entire podcast on this one.
Yeah, definitely. But those are definitely also relevant, I would say, even across domains, across industries and companies. So definitely there. But Cromwell, with that, I would like to thank you for your time. I think it was definitely a great conversation. We had some open question also that later on we can take up and
I've got to get back to you on that one, Rahul, for sure.
yeah, we can have a coffee chat over it, and that's great. So
Yeah.
it was a great conversation. So thank you again for taking time out.
No worries. Thanks for the opportunity, Rahul, and happy to be here.
Great, perfect.